We saw a question earlier in this section that actually had a lot of the same language as this one, and we could set up a linear equation and solve that. But also, I feel like if you can avoid an equation and just do it in a very kind of normal, kind of instinctive way with math, that's better. So that's how I see this. An event planner is planning a party. It costs the event planner a one-time fee of $35 to rent the venue and $10.25 per attendee. The event planner has a budget of $300. What is the greatest number of attendees possible without exceeding the budget? Well, let's just take the $300 and let's get rid of that $35 fee. And you can use a calculator for that. Nothing wrong with that. So 300 minus 35 is 265. And then 1025 per attendee. So my thought here is let's divide it in. How many times can I get 1025 to go into that number? So again, in the calculator, 265 divided by 1025 is a messy number, 25.85. So the maximum number is 25. Now the potential trap here, right, is our instinct might be to round this up to 26. Because you're like, okay, it's got to be a whole number, right? Because it's a number of people. You can't have part of a person. And then 26 would be what normally 25.85 would round to. The 8 would round it up. But you have to think of the story, right? This is a classic SAT move, is they know that some of you get so robotic about math, so locked into a particular method that you can't shake it, right? You can't think for yourself. And the story says that this is our maximum, right? So we could even test this out by reversing it, right? Let's take our 25 and multiply it by 1025, right? And that's going to be 25 times 1025 is 256.25. Add in our $35 fee. And we are at 291.25. Now think about it, right? The budget is $300. Could we add in another person? Could we put in another $10.25? No. Because another $10.25 is going to go over to $301.50. We're over budget. So that right there would have been the 26th person. That is proof that this is wrong to round, right? So stories sometimes supersede the normal rules of math, especially with rounding, because we have to think about it as there's a limited amount of money. And you can't just round up and not magically get that other person in. You're out of money, right? You can't go into debt for this stupid party. So you gotta think about that, and that's the difference between a story question and a pure algebra question. And notice there are no instructions here to round, right? We should know that we have to think about whole numbers because of it's a person, but other than that, it didn't tell you to round up. So you also don't wanna just make that assumption. Hopefully this all makes sense. If you are curious, what would the line have been that we would have made an equation? Let's say the amount of money. So the cost is equal to the slope is 1025, the number of attendees or people. Let's just do P plus 35. Then you would substitute 300 equals 1025P plus 35. And then just think about how you would solve that. You would subtract 35, and then you would divide by 1025, right? Subtract 25, divide by 1025. It's the same moves, but I think by not having an equation, it kind of frees us up to think about it in a much more just natural way. So that urge to do algebra has been implanted in you by your math teacher, but it will not always serve you well on the SAT. So if there's a more instinctive, natural way to solve something by just kind of following the steps of the story, just do that. You don't always need to write an equation. It's fine.